So in the last video, we just talked about establishing the trig ratios. What is sine, what is cosine, what is tangent? And we realized that sine, cosine, and tangent have to do with the ratio of two sides of a right triangle. Sine being opposite over hypotenuse, cosine adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan opposite over adjacent. So just a quick recap. If I were trying to find tan of A, I say, all right, from A, my perspective for tan should be opposite over adjacent. The opposite side from A is 20, and the adjacent side is 21. If I were doing tan B instead, I'd be doing opposite over adjacent would be 21 over 20. If I looked at sine A, sine is supposed to be opposite over hypotenuse, so sine A is 20 over 29. Sine B, opposite over hypotenuse, would be 21 over 29. And then cosine A, adjacent over hypotenuse, 21 29ths. Cosine B, adjacent over hypotenuse, 20 over 29. So hopefully that was a piece of cake. Now, why do we do all that? Well, what we do with that is actually, no matter what triangle you have, if you have a right triangle with a 41-degree angle in it, the sine of 41 always ends up reducing to the same ratio. So because all right triangles with a 41-degree angle would be similar, the ratio of corresponding sides would always be the same. So sine 41 has a value. It's a very specific value, and it's always the same value. So let's say we have this. You have, usually on a Tuesday afternoon, you take the bus home, but today you're going to go to Jeanette's house, blah, 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 blah. School is located at the corner of Awesome Street and First Street, and Jeanette is at the corner of Awesome and H. Typically, we'd use the Pythagorean theorem. So let's say I know it's 300 feet right here, and I know that this is a 41-degree angle, and we want to determine how far we're going to walk from school to Jeanette's house. We want to know this distance. Typically, we try to use Pythagorean theorem to find the side of a right triangle, but that only works if I can have a squared and b squared, or b squared and c squared. I need two sides to be able to solve for the Pythagorean theorem, so that's not going to cut it here. So why can't we use Pythagorean theorem? We only know one side. How can we use trig ratios? Well, here's how that works. I know the 300. I want to know x, and I know that this angle is 41. So I have an angle. I have the hypotenuse. Well, I don't have it, but it's marked. It's something I'm interested in. And I have the side opposite. So I have an opposite and a hypotenuse. O and H goes with sine. So sine 41 would be 300 over x. I now have an equation with exactly one unknown, the x. So what I often say is, it's a silly little rhyme. If you're looking for a side, cross multiply. I am looking for a side. I want to use trigonometry to find this side. If you're looking for a side, cross multiply. So what we do is we put this over 1 and we cross multiply. 300 times 1 is 300. Sine 41 times x is x times sine 41. Now, sine 41 is a number. It's a value. It'll come right out of your calculator if we type it in there. I want to solve for x, though. So if I want to get x alone, I want to divide by sine 41. So x is going to be 300 divided by sine 41. So at this point, we're going to pull up the calculator. And the first thing we're going to do when we get it up here is we are going to hit mode and put ourselves in degree mode. So you're going to put yourself in degree mode. If you've reset your calculator recently, it's probably in radians. So in degree mode, I'm going to type 300 divided by sine 41. Hit enter. 457.275, it says nearest foot. So 457 feet is my answer. And that's how you use SOHCAHTOA to find other values. So let's do another one here. Here's another right triangle to measure the height of the tree. So I'm interested in H. I'm walked 125 feet away and measured a 32-degree angle of elevation, it's called, from the ground. Use a trig equation to calculate the height of the tree. All right, well, I have an angle. With respect to this angle, the h is the opposite side, and the 125 is the adjacent side. So I have opposite and adjacent, O and A. That's tan. So tan of 32 equals h over 125. If you're looking for a side, cross multiply. I am looking for a side, so I'm going to put that over 1. Cross multiply, h times 1 is h. 125 times tan 32. And I'm just going to type that in the calculator. So I have 125 times tan 32. And I get 78.1. It says nearest tenth, so 78.1 it is. Now, I always have people ask, well, does it matter if I did 125 tan 32, or can I do tan 32 times 125? It doesn't matter the order you put this in. However, I usually put the number in front, and here's why. If you're too quick to type in your calculator, and you type tan 32 times 125, and you forgot to end the parenthesis right there, you're going to have a big problem, because that is something completely different. However, if you did remember the parenthesis, you would be fine and would get the same answer that we got before. So just be careful when you're dealing with the SOHCAHTOA stuff, that you close all your parentheses. All right, we're just going to keep going here. A 20-foot wire supports a flagpole, makes a 35-degree angle. To the nearest foot, how high is the flagpole? So I'm looking for this. I have that, and I have this angle. So with respect to this angle, that's the hypotenuse. That's the adjacent side. So I have adjacent, hypotenuse, and an angle. Adjacent and hypotenuse are cosine. So cosine 35 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. I am looking for a side, so I cross multiply. 20 cos 35 equals x. 20 cos 35. 16.38 to the nearest foot. That's going to be 16 feet. Notice how repetitive this all is. All right, this one says find the value of x and y in the triangle. Round your answer to the nearest hundredth. I think I can do that. So x and y, let's just pick x because alphabetically it comes first and deal with that. So from the perspective of 71, x is the hypotenuse, 22 is the opposite. Opposite and hypotenuse is O and H. We're dealing with sine. Sine 71 equals opposite over hypotenuse. I'm going to cross multiply. X sine 71 equals 22. And I get x equals 22 divided by sine 71. Notice I didn't end the parenthesis, but I'm okay because that was the last thing I typed. 23.267, it says round to the nearest hundredth. That's 2 decimal places. So 267 would become 27. 23.27. Now at this point, I need to go back and I want to find y. And I know that this is 23.27. We have a couple options for y. Now we know two sides of the right triangle. We can use Pythagorean theorem to find y. Or what I think is a better idea is we can just use SOHCAHTOA again. 71 and the y, those are, let's see, an angle and the adjacent. And this is opposite. Opposite and adjacent is tangent. So tan of 71 equals 22 over y. Cross multiply. Y times tan 71 equals 22. Divide to solve for y. And 22 divided by tan 71 gets me 7.575, which is going to be 7.58. Voila. And then the last one I'm going to do right here is example 4. A regular pentagon with side lengths of 14. Okay, fine, is inscribed in a circle. What's the radius? Well, the radius would be this guy right here. I want to find x. They're telling me this is 7, so that's got to be 7. Find the radius to the nearest tenth. Well, this time they gave me 2 angles. So you know what you do? You just pick one. Doesn't matter which one you pick, you are still going to end up with the right answer. I am going to pick the 54. Why? Just because. So if I pick this 54, x is a hypotenuse, 7 is an adjacent. Adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. So cosine 54 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. If you're looking for a side, cross multiply. X cos 54 equals 7. Divide by cos 54. And I get 11.909, nearest tenth, that's 11.9. Ta-da! All right, so that is SOHCAHTOA for solving for sides. So hopefully that all made some sense to you. And the stupid joke for today is, what do you call an alligator that's a private eye? An investigator.